Hi, Alex Smith, Guitar Medic here. We're on to another project. A friend of mine for years, I've known him for about 20 years, he came up to me and approached me with a guitar project he had laying around. He bought this back in the early 70s. Did a little bit of research on the guitar. It's a hollow body Electra. It's kind of a Gibson knockoff of the ES35. And let's just take a quick look at it so we get a kind of a before situation. It's actually in really good shape for its age. It is the true definition of a closet classic. However, there are some issues that we want to deal with. The fret wire is very rusty. It needs a lot of help. The neck is still straight. The guitar is in good shape. There are hardly any scratches. The pickguard's in good shape. The bridge pieces are all laying out. I'm really not sure how this is going to go down. I've never seen a bridge. It's similar to a Bigsby, but yet nothing like it. So we'll have to figure that out when we get there. The plan is right now to get the frets and the neck in really good shape. So we're going to do a fret polish. We're going to go then and detail the neck, and then we'll just kind of clean the body up a little bit, restring it, do a setup on it. Being that the bridge just sets on there, we're going to have to locate that and then do intonation. So rather than waste your time, I'm going to go off camera and we're going to tape off the neck, get this thing ready to go for a fret polish, and I will be right back. Alright, we've got our Closet Classic neck all taped off. Only thing we have exposed now is the fret wire. We've taped this off so that we can leave the wood alone and just work directly on the wires. So now what I'm going to be doing is using Micromesh papers, and we're going to start, seeing as this has a lot of corrosion on it, we're going to start with 1500. We're going to use a rubber pad, wrap this around, and then start flapping back and forth. I want to show you this process. It's very simple. It's not very time consuming. Taping off the neck, if you've done it a couple of times, it goes pretty quick. If you've done it for the first time, second time, it's going to take you a little bit. So here's how this goes. You just want to hit every fret wire. Make sure that the neck is supported. Don't use a whole lot of pressure. Of course, be careful near the body. You don't want to scratch or do any damage to especially a customer's guitar. Just do the flapping back and forth using the edge. And my paper is definitely, or my Micromesh has definitely seen its better days, but it will still work. And then what I usually do also with each grit is lay it flat, just kind of polish the tops a little bit. Once we're there, we'll go on to the next grit. Next grit is 1800. Same process. Wrap it around, flap all the fret wires. Don't use a lot of pressure. Already we can see this coming to a shine. I hope you can see that on camera. Now we'll show you when we're done. We'll show you all the results of the fret job here. You can see the difference there. Go to the next one. Next one we got is 2400. Wrap that around. Start flapping the frets. Looks like this guitar hasn't been played a whole lot. Been looking these up on the internet, and they're actually pulling some good dollars. So when this thing is done, you know, I'll have to get a friend to appraise it or whatever, but it's definitely held its value over the years. Next one's 3200. And this will definitely play really well. The owner, I think, wanted to start playing and dug this out of the closet. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, going through the grits on the Micromesh. We're up to 3600. Again, wrapped around, and my Micromesh has seen better days, so I got to find a good spot. Micromesh is a great investment for you. You can get it through StuMac online, Stuart McDonald catalog, and it'll do a lot of fret jobs. It'll serve you well. We're looking good there. Next grit we have is 4000. wrap it around the pad. Be careful getting up near the body here too. This neck is a little bit raised off because it's a hollow body. If you're working on a Strat or a Les Paul or something like that, you're going to want to be very careful and make sure that you protect the body. 6000 grit next. Again, I'll find a good spot. As you can see, you know, we're going to go up to 12,000. I've got two more micro meshes after this. Really not all that time consuming to do this, and you get a great result from it. Great for restorations when you don't want to pull frets or do any major work. And it'll make the guitar play really good, make it look really good. Next one after the 6,000 is 8,000. Wrap that around. Flap these. This one and the last one, I am going to do the flat. I did the flat on the first one because I noticed as I was flapping I wasn't really getting the top of the fret wire really well. I didn't have to do that after because I actually cleaned the corrosion off, and now we're just doing the polishing. So the next step will be the final micro mesh, which is 12,000. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go past with a compound, and we're going to polish these to a high gloss. So again, wrap around, flap the frets. We'll do the flat again. We're working with metal here, so you don't have to follow any type of grain or anything. We're just polishing up the tops of the frets here. Okay, there's all the micro mesh. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. It's Wizard's metal polish. You can use Mother's. There's a lot of great compounds out there for doing, you know, car rims, brass, aluminum, magnesium. A little bit of this goes a long way, so I'm just going to take a little pinch. It's kind of like cotton candy with a damp feel to it. I'm not really sure what's in there. I definitely would keep it away from animals and kids and stuff like that, but you just want to take a little bit of glob of this, put it in your hand, put it over the fret wire, and rub it until it starts to turn a little bit black. Once it starts to turn black, move on to the next fret wire, and when the fret wire turns black, just keep going right down the neck. Now this is going to bring it to a nice, brilliant finish. I don't do this to all the guitars I do, but if it's requested, I do. And I usually do it to my guitars because it really smooths out the fret wire. Brings it to a really high gloss. Now you can see too, that's turning black, so you're going to want to flip that around. Don't be afraid to get your hands a little bit dirty on these projects. Just keep working your way up the neck. And again, just don't spend a whole lot of time on it. You want to get playing these, you don't want to be working on them the whole time. Keep moving that material around. It really is, it's kind of like cotton, and it's got some type of agent in it that is very slightly abrasive and does a great polish. I swear by this Wizards. You know, we've got all of these done. We can see that this is pretty well beat up. My fingers are a little black. We're going to set that aside and we're going to take an old rag. Do not use a good shop cloth on this because it's going to blacken your rag. Now we're going to go back and we're going to just take that polish off of there. And I always use like 2 fingers or 3 fingers, and I overdo the frets a couple of times. Just go in cycles, up 1 fret at a time. But rub 2 or 3 at a time. That way you get more of that material cleaned and you'll get more of the polish off. And then once I get this all taken care of, I'm going to flip the rag around and just do it again. And you can see all that's taken off. Let's just get another clean spot on this rag and just go over them one more time. Because after this we're going to take the tape off, and then we're going to detail the fretboard, which is rosewood, and we don't want any of that black coming off onto the rosewood. It's another good reason why we are taping off the neck. You have to protect that rosewood because it's not sealed. There is no finish on it. And you do not want to get this into the wood grain because it's just not going to come out. So there's our dirty rag. Here's our cleaned, polished fretboard. Let's peel all this tape off now. And you don't want to pull up on this. You want to just peel it very gently. We've got an old guitar here. We have inlays in here that, well, I have seen them pop up. Not on this guitar, but in the past, a couple of projects I've had with friends, we've actually had to glue them back into place. So right now will be the time if you find out if they're actually loose or not, and I'm keeping an eye on that as we go. Okay, everything's looking good. We're not peeling any finish off. We're not, no damage whatsoever. Okay, while we're here, I'm just going to take just a little bit of furniture polish. Any furniture polish will do. I'm just using Pledge today. We're just going to spritz the neck just very lightly. Now what you want to do is move this around and make sure it hits the entire fretboard. And you want to move quickly on this, at least to get it back onto the rag, because you do not want that sitting in the wood. Dampness will start to pull the finish up. I'm sorry, not the finish, but it'll pull the wood grain up, and it could damage your neck. So we are getting a little bit of dirt coming off of here. I'm going to work this over a couple of times and bring it to a little bit of a shine. And then we'll look at the results. Still pulling up just a little bit. I can see some dirt in there that's just not coming up. We're going to leave that be because I don't want to do any damage. Like I say, if this was a new instrument, we could probably pick at it a little bit and get every ounce of dirt up. But being that this is a vintage instrument and it's been around for a while, just sitting around, we just want to make sure that the inlays are in there good and they're not moving around. And we look good. Alright, let me just tip this up, and I hope you can see the results of this. It did turn out really well. So let's take a look at that. Hopefully on the camera here you can see a good shine. And that those fret wires, they didn't have any dings in them. We didn't have to fret level or anything like that. This is a pretty straightforward shot. The neck is in really good shape. It looks really nice. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go off camera and I'm just going to detail the rest of the body. We're just going to wipe this down with a rag, clean everything up, clean the pick guard off, nothing major, and then once I've done that off camera, we're going to try and figure out how all the bridge pieces go together, because they were all in just a big old pile in the case. Not really sure what I'm dealing with. So we'll put that bridge together, restring it, and do some intonation and setup. Okay, I spared you some time, and I wiped down the guitar in full, the neck, the body, and everything. And my next challenge here is I've never seen a bridge like this. It's like a Bigsby tremolo, but there's a lot of other parts laying around. We've got the tail piece, which is actually hinged. That's laying in place. We've got this, which is hinged, which the strings are going to hook up to. We got a spring. We've got the arm itself. We got a whole bunch of other stuff here. A small bushing, another small spring and everything. So this might take me a try or two, but I think I got it figured out. Again, I did some research on this guitar, and we're going to need to put this bushing underneath, like so, and then hold it into place. And I gotta think here. This goes next. It's just a plastic little ring. Oops. And then the arm goes on. Now there's a flat here. That'll line up with the flat in here. Okay, now we're gonna get a little tricky, and I hope I can show you this stuff, because I don't have a whole lot of room. going to assume that this spring goes in and this washer because they're all the same size. So I'm going to put all that just together, and then we're going to screw this into that bottom bushing. So there's our up and down motion, there's our side to side motion, and I believe that's a tensioner, and I think this is a tensioner too. We'll have to see when we're setting it up. And then your big spring will drop in here, should kind of line up on an angle, and that'll get your whammy bar to work. Now I know it seems to be sticking up and it's very awkward looking, but when the string tension gets put on here, that should automatically just pull this down into place. And then I'm thinking you can adjust the height of the bar by this down here, but we'll have to see. Now the only other bridge piece I have is this right here. And all it is, it's a felt line piece of wood with, I would call it like an early Tune-o-matic bridge style setup. And looking at this, I've got notches in here for custom string spacing, and these are fatter than these, so I know that this bridge has to go on in this position. The strings alone are what's going to hold it in place. So what I want to do off camera is I want to take a little bit of my time here because I don't want to scratch the body. This is just going to be laying on. It's not going to be affixed at all. The tension of the springs or strings is going to hold this in place. So the next scene I should have this all strung up, and then we'll check intonation and height adjustment on strings and everything else, and we'll finish this up. Okay, I've got my snark tuner going. Neat little invention. Got to have one or two of those for your guitars. And what I'm doing right now is just doing final tuning. And in 1 second I will explain to you what I've been up to here. Okay, we're pretty close on tuning. Now, the bridge that we just assembled, that's one thing. This bridge right here is what's going to control all your intonation and everything else. There was a sticker on the body that said place bridge here that really, on a setup aspect or an ownership aspect, really doesn't tell you how to position the bridge. So what I did was I just went through with a screwdriver and made that intonation design just slant and slant like we do on most, and I'll show you that. Most guitars have that pattern. Now I'm not sure if I'm even close or not. We may have to bump the bridge in or back, forward or back a little bit, I'm not sure. But what I did was I took a tape measure, and being that this is a knockoff of a Gibson, I was assuming that it would be a 24 3/4 inch scale, which is very important in placing this bridge. I went and measured right from the nut down, and we're at 24 3/4 right on the noggin here. So now what I'm going to try to do is do the intonation, and intonation is basically setting up these blocks so that the notes on your neck stay true all the way up your scale. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go on open E and then go to the 12th fret and very lightly press down. And surprisingly, that's right on. So hopefully I've got this in the right place, and the rest of them come right in fairly close. Well, A is right on. Let's go to the D. That's right on. We're getting lucky because I just guessed at all these. But if you notice the pattern, when I show the guitar at the end here, notice the pattern because that's mostly how your guitar intonation is going to look. Some guitars are a little bit different, and every one of them needs to be set when you restring just to maintain your tonality and quality of notes and pitch. Okay, that one's a little bit shy, so we need to sharpen this note. So we're going to take this screw here and push that forward. That shortens the length of scale, will sharpen the note at the 12th fret. I'm just going to double check our tuning open. Double check. I'm going to give that one more tweak. I didn't go quite far enough. And again, check our tuning. We're pretty much right there yet. And intonation's on at the 12th. E string. let that one go forward just a little bit more. Tune it back up again. And check the 12. Okay, now we're on. Now the only next thing, or the last thing we actually have to do is just test the whammy bar here. A couple of things could happen now. I know you probably aren't seeing the bridge anymore, but the bridge is fairly secure. If it does take a good bump, it's going to get knocked out of place, and this whole process will have to start over. So we need to make sure that the owner is aware of that. It really is a neat guitar. So let's keep our fingers crossed that this tremolo stays in tune, or excuse me, vibrato stays in tune. Got a good spring action on it. Okay, now we went a little bit flat. Let's just tune that back up real quick. There's not really a whole lot of adjustment on these old Bigsby style tremolos, or vibratos as they're known. So we're gonna have to be patient, and you don't want to fully dump this like a tremolo. It will go out of tune. That's not what it was designed for. It was just to vibrate and vibrato. So check it. There's E's on, the A is on, the D is on, the G is on, the B is on, the E is on. We got it, and the bridge stayed in place. What a neat little project this was. Let me just show you how it goes, what we ended up with. The tremolo actually works. We were able to find all the parts, get that going. Fret job turned out really good, and it was also very clean. We have a couple of little minor adjustments to do on it before I hand it back to the owner. But what a great piece. Definitely a closet classic in the truest sense of the word. We're looking at a 1973, 1974, which would be a lawsuit era Electra ES35. Lawsuit meaning they stopped making these because Gibson and Fender and the other companies that were making the originals thought they were getting a little too close to the copyrights and decided to stop them in their tracks. But if you have one of these, hang on to them. Try and restore them. Don't throw them away. They're really neat. They're real interesting, and if kept up, what are we looking at here? Almost 40 years worth of play. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope if you have a closet classic, it encourages you to pull it out of your closet and put it back into service. Alex Smith signing off, Guitar Medic. If you'd like to see any more projects, check out my YouTube channel, AXMAX Tremolo channel, and www.axmaxtremolo.com. Good luck with your project.